All right, Elder Edwards, Liberating Truth. This is symbolic. This is a response video. You'd asked several questions about atheism. I thought I would sort of explain this, answer your questions from my perspective, and that would kind of provide sort of a foundation for the conversations that are to follow. There are various modes of non-belief. There's one mode that says uh, God and gods do not exist. It's a belief that gods do not exist. That's referred to as strong atheism. It's essentially a belief that gods do not exist. Another mode of non belief is to neither believe that gods do not exist nor to believe that they do exist. This is referred to as weak atheism. So you don't believe that a God exists, but you don't disbelieve that a God exists. You remain open to both possibilities. Agnosticism, technically, agnosticism is the belief that man cannot know whether God exists or not. So this is a question of knowledge, not a question of existence or being. The existence and being questions are ontological questions. The knowledge question is an epistemological question. It is possible to be an atheist and an agnostic at the same time. You can say to yourself, I don't know. I don't believe in God. I don't disbelieve in God. I don't know whether God exists. And I don't believe man can know. And then be basically an atheist agnostic. I fall into the weak atheist camp. Um, I can't speak for all atheists. There are many. As I pointed out, there are certain modes of non-belief there. I mean, there's also people, I guess, who just don't believe. I should also point out that infants don't believe in God either. Animals, as far as we know, don't believe in God either. So, can we properly use the term atheist to refer to them, or do we reserve the term atheist for those who have the capacity to believe, the cognitive capacity to believe, but who for some reason in some mode do not believe. So I really think belief is a cognitive process. Now, it being a cognitive process, or a cognitive state, you get variations. You have people who rely primarily on logic and say if something is not logical, I will not believe it. Um, or you have other people who say, well, I don't expect a God to be logical, so if a God is illogical, if a God is above logic and created logic, then, there being contradictions, logical contradictions, doesn't bother me. There may still be a God. Um, there are other people who are empirically based. They want some form of evidence, maybe material evidence. So you have the empiricism that looks for evidence. You have logic, which looks for internal coherence or not. And you have atheists focusing on different areas like this. Some people focus on the material universe. They will only accept things into their belief system if there is material evidence for it. Um, so all of this being said, well, let me add another thing. There is a tradition in atheism, but not solely in atheism. But there's a tradition of free thinking, which states that one should not blindly accept dogma or blindly accept doctrine without subjecting it to the test of reason. Uh, so this strain, it can be very, very strong, and I think you'll find that most of the atheists who bother to get into religious debates or to discuss religion have some inkling of that background. I have a strong strain of that. Now, for me, free thinking, being a free thinker, also includes admitting the possibility that a God does exist, because as soon as I basically say God does not exist, I've created a dogma, you see, and I've restricted my thinking, and I've basically self-dogmatized myself. So for me, it's important as a free thinker to admit the possibility that God may exist. Belief, I believe, comes down to certainty. I believe it is cognitive or it is semi-cognitive as a process or as a state. A man can come in. Now, this will bear on the question of denial or rejection of God. A man comes in with a horse, into my room with a horse. Okay? He says, "Do you believe the horse exists?" Well, I can see the horse. It's self-evident. So, I will probably say, yeah, there's a horse there. Now, if I'm truly going to go into denial and rejection, and despite the fact that I know and believe that the horse is there, if I then deny the horse and say, no, no, there is no horse, there is no horse, I'm truly in denial. I have truly rejected the horse, right? Um, Now, different situation. Man comes in and he says, there is a horse in the next room. There's a horse in your living room. Do you believe me? Now, this I'm going to subject to the various tests. I'm going to ask, is it reasonable? What's the likelihood he's telling the truth? Is there any physical evidence? Do I hear a horse? And I may come up with a different answer based on the different ratio of those things. If I've known the guy all my life and he's never lied to me before, maybe he put a horse in my living room. I don't know. If he's a guy out of the blue, I've never seen him before, I probably won't believe him. So, here we're applying tests to try to detect whether or not what he is saying is true. If I decide there is no horse in the next room, what I've done is I've rejected the proposition that there is a horse in the next room. I haven't rejected a horse. I've rejected the proposition that, quote unquote, there is a horse in the next room. If the man comes in and he says, okay, in the next room there's a horse with 27 legs. Now, this is a different thing. Now I have to evaluate how rational that is, how probable that is, and now I must enter into my thinking that this man must be mad, because it is unlikely that there would be a horse with 27 legs in the next room. I start to question his sanity. So, you see, we go through different processes to determine whether or not we believe something. Belief is not a simple thing, I don't think. Now, a man can come in and he can say, do you believe in the God? I have to make up a God, okay? Hechemon. Hechemon is God. Do you believe in Hechemon? I would have to say, no, I have no idea who Hechemon is. If he then says, you have denied Hechemon. I haven't denied Hechemon. I have denied the proposition that there is a God named Hechemon and that he exists. Okay, maybe both at once. So you see, a lot of times what's being denied is a proposition, not an actual God. To really deny a God, you have to believe in that God. True denial is an act of belief, in other words. So that's the story there. So, looking at all that, is there a code that atheists follow? Nope. Are there principles, universal principles that atheists follow? Nope. You'll find that the freethinkers do stick to principles of reason and logic and empirical evidence, yes, but freethinkers are not by any means all atheists. And other atheists who are not freethinkers also stick by those principles, but it's not universal. There's no rule book for atheists. There are no do's and don'ts for atheists, and there is no mission to my knowledge. Now, of course, there are going to be exceptions to all this. Is going to be or are going to be an atheist or atheists who have some sort of mission that they've determined for themselves. But you can't really speak of atheists as a unified group. The only thing atheists share in common, universally, the only thing you can say universally about atheists is that they lack a belief in gods or a God. They lack a belief. They do not have a belief in the gods. That's all. That's all there is in common. There's no unified anything. No rule book. No starter kit. No believer's manual. Nothing at all. So I hope that sort of answered some of the questions. Shows how complex the question of belief is, being made up of a question of logic, reason, probability, evidence, reputation, all kinds of things to arrive at what we call belief, which I believe is a cognitive state. Otherwise, the animals would be atheists, all newborn babies would be atheists, rocks would be atheists, all of inert nature would be atheistic. No, you have to have the capacity to believe to basically, I think, be properly termed an atheist. If there were no theism, if there were no theists, I suppose you could say everybody would be an atheist, because technically there would be a non-belief. In that regard, if there were no theism, everybody would be an atheist. But the term would lose its meaning because it's atheism. You got to have theism grammatically to have atheism. But technically, the definition would fit. No one would believe in any gods, so they would technically be atheist. It's just that the term would be meaningless. I am out of time, my friend. Look forward to talking to you some more. Take care. Bye bye.